Three levels of government moved on data centers this week, and not one of them checked with the other two. If you're just joining, FERC has already told NERC to write reliability standards for computational loads, putting data centers directly into the conversation about unprecedented load growth and disturbances on the bulk power system. Now the fight is how NERC defines obligations for large computational facilities and whether those obligations can hold up under reliability discipline as AI-driven load keeps moving through the grid planning stack.
This is the Data Center Daily. Today, 5 FERC commissioners in a Senate hearing room, 2 towns making opposite calls, and Thane residents doing arithmetic Amazon apparently didn't.
We start with that hearing. All 5 commissioners, 1 room, docket RM 26-4.
If federal computational load reliability standards matters to you, hit follow. We'll be back on it soon.
From Josh Siegel at E&E News.
Senators will have a chance to question all 5 Federal Energy Regulatory Commission members this week, as the agency takes on a prominent role in addressing rising power demand from data centers. The Senate Energy and Natural Resources Committee hearing comes as the Commission has garnered bipartisan praise for its initial step last month, addressing how to connect massive data centers onto the electric grid.
All 5 commissioners, 1 room, in front of the Senate. This is an accountability moment. Lee and Heinrich both get to put questions on the record.
On the federal reliability front, the whole commission now answers to Senate Energy and Natural Resources this week, and the docket to watch is RM 26-4. The interesting part, FERC didn't write one rule. It sent show-cause orders to 6 regional operators, telling each one to examine how large and co-located loads connect. That pushes the hard part back onto PJM and everyone else.
Right, and that's my worry. We directed the operators to examine it is not a compliance date. Is any senator going to put a deadline on the record, with consequences?
Bipartisan praise so far. Lee and Heinrich both liked the initial step. Praise is cheap in a July hearing. I want to hear whether there's any financial bite before an interconnection milestone gets cleared.
PJM alone is sitting on something like 12 gigawatts of large load in the queue. Ask a commissioner how much of that clears under the new standards. Put a number on it, or admit you can't.
Here's An Sang-hee at Chosun.
According to industry sources, on July 20th, Lee, Choi, and Kim Hee-chul, Naver's chief financial officer, CFO, visited Brookfield's headquarters in Toronto, Canada earlier this week. Brookfield, which invests in infrastructure, energy, real estate, private equity, and credit, manages over $1 trillion in assets. Recently, it launched a $100 billion, approximately 148 trillion Korean won, AI infrastructure investment program covering data centers and power infrastructure.
Naver's top brass flew to Toronto this week. Chair Lee Hae-jin, CEO Choi Soo-yeon, and CFO Kim Hee-chul to talk funding for a 1-gigawatt AI factory. Brookfield's $100 billion program is the vehicle they're discussing.
Under discussion, a Korean hyperscaler and NVIDIA on a 1-gigawatt project, and the money is still a conversation in a Toronto conference room.
Right. Chosun's own phrase is, interpretations suggest the funding may be entering a full-scale phase, so no signed commitment yet. The CFO showed up in person.
And that's the thing to watch. Brookfield's $100 billion program has been background noise all year. This is the first specific company actually walking in the door to shop it. Closing the money is a different thing from taking the meeting.
Brookfield runs over $1 trillion in assets and has the balance sheet to close 1 gigawatt. The hurdle is getting this past the MOU photo op stage and into capital on a balance sheet with an in-service date attached.
A gigawatt? That's a power question before it's a funding question. Where's the electricity for a 1-gigawatt factory coming from? And who signed a PPA? None of that's in the Toronto handshake yet.
The HinduBusinessLine writes,
Thane locals protesting the construction of an Amazon data center near their residential areas have flagged glaring discrepancies in the water consumption requirements flagged by the company before the public and government officials. Organizers of the Wake Up Thane cars, WUT, have alleged mismatch between the water consumption levels estimated for the Balcom data center in Thane and demanded that the company set the record straight.
This goes past the usual "the data center will use too much water" complaint. Wake Up Thanacars did the arithmetic and found a numerical gap between what Amazon told officials and what the cooling actually implies. And here's the detail that gets me. Amazon's own website says the system flips from air cooling to water-based evaporative cooling once it hits about 29.4 Celsius. In Thane, in summer. That threshold gets crossed for most of the year.
The sequencing matters. Residents flagged the discrepancy before approval. They want the 2 billion gallon math done at the permit stage, not after the concrete's poured. Different continent, same mechanic. I want the same answer the group is asking for directly. Which water number did the regulator actually sign off on?
Right, because set the record straight only works if someone's on the hook for the record. A residents group caught this. Where was the reviewing agency?
Here's John C. Cody at Tampa Bay Beacons.
County commissioners voted unanimously to approve a 12-month moratorium on new data centers, freezing building permits, rezonings, and site plans for the massive server farms across unincorporated Pasco. The moratorium is retroactive to May 27th, the day the county first advertised the hearing.
Pasco just hit pause. 12 months, unanimous, no drama. Building permits, rezonings, site plans, all frozen across unincorporated Pasco.
And retroactive to May 27th, the day they advertised the hearing. So nobody got to rush a project through the door before the ban landed. That's a county that read the playbook.
That's the part that got me. The retroactive date means they saw the beat-the-clock filings coming. But here's my problem with Chairman Mariano. We don't have to worry about any data centers for a year. A moratorium gives you a year to write the plan you don't have yet.
Right, it buys time to study, nothing more. And put it next to El Paso, which we'll get to. One county slams the brakes, another writes an actual framework. Same week, two very different instincts.
Freeze versus rulebook. Pasco picked the blunt instrument. Cheaper politically, zero controversy, easy board win. The test is whether they use the 12 months or just enjoy the quiet.
KVIA with Heriberto Perez.
El Paso, Texas, KVIA. The El Paso City Council Monday approved its first data center policy framework, establishing a comprehensive approach for evaluating future hyperscale data center projects. The framework strengthens protections for residents, infrastructure, natural resources, and utility ratepayers in El Paso.
El Paso put the ratepayer in the actual document, not just on the protest sign, not just in the public comment period. The framework itself names utility ratepayer protection. First time I've seen a municipality do that this week.
6 months of research, 2,300 plus public comments, 274 survey responses. That gives you a paper trail. And it lands the same week Pasco County just dropped a flat one-year moratorium.
Right, and there's the split. Pasco slams the door for 12 months. El Paso builds a permitting gate. Special permit, plan commission review, public hearing, council sign-off. Two totally different ways to slow it down.
And El Paso's the harder one to game. A moratorium expires. A framework with enhanced environmental standards on water and energy demand sticks around when the hyperscaler application actually lands.
The residents drove it too. Water use, electricity demand, long-term accountability, their words, baked into the recommendations. Turns out if you give people 2,300 comment slots, they'll tell you exactly what they're scared of.
If the AI boom is what's driving your data center questions, try AI Daily Briefing. It's top AI news for engineers, founders, and investors, with real capabilities versus demo hype explained fast every weekday. Find it wherever you listen to podcasts. What we're watching next. All 5 FERC commissioners are scheduled to testify this week before the Senate Energy and Natural Resources Committee. You'll find links to every story we covered today in the show notes, if you want to dig further into anything that caught your ear. That's the Data Center Daily for today. This is a Lantern podcast.